Doing it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome. We're back at this again. My name is Beatriz. I help run Chisme on my time off. Full time, I'm an organizer at TCE, working around water. I'll pass it over to Matt for a quick intro, and Mark, thanks for joining us.
Kind of can't hear you, Matt.
Can't hear you, Matt.
Can't hear me at all. No.
We can hear you a little bit, just a little.
Can you hear me now? All right. Hopefully it's closer. Can you guys hear me now?
Very faint.
Sounds like bass boosted.
What's going on? I'm going to just pass it off to Mark, and I might just have to sit this one out tonight.
Okay, sounds good. I'm Mark. I do a lot of organizing with Democratic Socialists of America, DSA, here in Corpus, and I'm also a tax professional. I've been doing tax work for more than 4 years, and over the past couple years, spending a lot of time looking into the Desal and city council situations. So, been learning a lot and talking to a lot of people about it. But happy to be on.
Yeah, that's what's up. All right, well, we'll start with the quick kind of recap of what all's been going on. So it's looking like the Inner Harbor pause might be permanent. On July 29th, the City Council voted to pause the funding of the design work of the Inner Harbor until they got assurance from the state that the loans that they got from the Inner Harbor can be repurposed for something else. On August 8th, the state sent back this letter. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. With a detailed response on what's been issued and what could be spent on alternatives to the Inner Harbor. So to date, we've actually only spent about 30 to 40 mil on making Inner Harbor Desal a reality. But there are these two figures floating around of 100 million and 200 million that we would be losing out on if we don't actually follow through on the Inner Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's why we're having Mark on today to kind of shed some light on what this might mean. I'm going to point to a specific part of this letter. It says, at a minimum, the city is obligated to pay back the current outstanding balance of 231 million plus accrued interest, whether the project is complete or not. So yeah, Mark, what are your thoughts on what that means, and should we be only looking at the 30 to 40 million that's actually been spent, or consider this like larger sum of money?
Yeah, for sure. So the reason that the council was asking this was to see if they can use this funding for other sources. But of course, because the price came out of 1.2 billion, and they're going to need even more funding. So if they do decide to move forward, although they were deciding on 50 million, this entire project is going to be like over 1.2 billion for sure, along with the annual cost. So that's why they're seeing if they can use these funds in other ways. So since this is a loan that you're getting from the state, one of the concerns is the interest that you're going to pay on it. But they're getting that money from the state. So if they decide to not move forward with the project, if there's certain amounts of the funds that can potentially go to other desal seawater projects or water projects, but you would just give that money back to the state. The only real net loss would be, of course, what you actually spent. Because it's a loan money, you're going to have to, if you're not going to move forward, you have to make those payments back. But you're giving the money back that you got for a loan. You're not doing the project, so you're not going to spend that money. So a lot of the news and the mayor is saying like, oh, we're missing out on 200 plus million of funding. And yeah, like we are kind of passing on it and missing out on it, but the net loss is only what we've spent on it. And the reason for not moving forward is because you're going to also accrue an extreme amount of debt if you make the decision, yes, we're going to spend this money on desal. It's not just this 200 million, it's not just the 50 million. You're committing to the 1.2 billion construction price minimum and the ongoing costs. And so, of course, there's going to be potential penalties and interest. The number on the letter is a little over 11 million. So, I mean, if the council is seriously seeing concerns that's going to make them want to stop this project, I mean, you're deciding to pay smaller costs than proceeding with the huge costs. If that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for clearing that up. I did want you to kind of differentiate between the capital improvement budget and the general budget. The money for the Inner Harbor is part of the capital improvement budget. My understanding is our utility payments are used essentially as collateral to qualify for these loans. Can you explain this process for us peasants to understand it?
Something I would say at the input session tonight, someone went up and asked the city manager, like if they decide to move forward or not move forward, like how is that going to impact the budget? And I mean, Peter Zanoni, the city manager, said that if the council decides not to move forward, I mean, they'll adjust the budget as needed. There's of course been, how are they going to fund the cost of this? And the city have said straight up that utility and residential water rates are going to go up. But something that the city manager said today was, that's not going to be a big impact for this current 25-26 budget. Even if they were moving forward on it, the rate increases really aren't right now. They would be kind of in a handful of years moving forward as they start proceeding with construction. And some people have also said, because they show the water rates going up each year, and they it doesn't start for a handful of years from now. And what I hear from people is that because the current council wants it to be future councils that deal with the rate increases, significant rate increases. So there's definitely shuffle rounds that'll happen with this budget if they don't move forward with it. But of course, for any water projects, they're going to have to make that money back through rate increases.
Mm-hmm. Can you explain why this project is in the capital budget rather than the general budget, just so folks understand that?
I don't know for sure on that one. Like I was saying, like the utility rates and part of what we're also going to talk about is the city will say they'll stay on that industry is paying their fair share. They'll say, we hear the concerns that residents don't use the water and that industry uses the water. But I mean, you'll hear the city water and the city manager saying industry does pay their fair share because they're increasing rates for everyone. And while even if they do increase rates for industry, the IDAs, the industrial tax abatements, those are other ways that they're getting benefits and paying much less. Even if they are raising their water rates, there's other parts of the picture to what's going on here and to how they get away with, handouts, basically.
Okay, but yeah, let's hop over to IDAs. So give us an idea of, I'll go ahead and share your screen.
Yeah. So IDAs, industrial tax abatements. It's corporations dodge taxes while residents pay because residents, the most common property tax is like, you think of a resident that owns a household in like a residential area, and they pay property taxes on that every year. Even if you own the house, you're still paying property taxes. And you hear people, they can go and contest what the county is appraising the value of their house, because that's ultimately determines how much tax you pay, the value of your assets. And you can go ahead to the next slide. So these IDA agreements are agreements that the city has with particular corporations that have industrial land in San Patricio County and the city, and they call them pilot payments in lieu of paying the actual property taxes. Instead of paying the property taxes, they have these pilot payments. And in Texas, as the slide says, the local governments are the ones that set the tax rates and collect the property taxes that gets used for schools, streets, fire, police, and more. So understanding about the amount of agreements that the city has is like connecting the dots of like why we have so many problems with our streets and funding and other things, because you see we have a significant amount of these industrial district agreements. And so yeah, if you want to go to the next slide, it kind of gets into the actual rates and how this is a good deal for industry and how it's different from a resident. So this is the industrial district master agreement summary. It's kind of a lot to wrap your head around if you're not like no tax stuff, or even if you do know tax stuff, it's hard to kind of wrap your head exactly on what this means, what the impact of this is. And so this is how it's a corporate handout, how this is where they get these significant tax breaks. So you see on the top, land pilot 100%. That means basically their land is valued at 100% of what it's worth. They're paying, it's going to be at its 100% valuation when they're determining what the property taxes are going to be. But industrial land is not their valuable asset. They're commonly on rural and underdeveloped land. Their main asset is going to be like the actual facility, the refinery, the foundations and the structure and the machinery that they have. So that land pilot 100% is only for land. If you see new improvements pilot 0%, that's if you build a refinery, you're building your offices and equipment. It's not taxed for the first 4 years, and if you on the next one is 62 to 75%. Then they after 4 years of use, like say you have a refinery that's going for 4 years. In the 5th year, they finally say how much is this worth, and you're going to pay 74% of that valuation. After that 4 years, the value of it has already depreciated. It's like if you bought a car, it's going to depreciate after 4 years of you having it. So they're getting their valuations that determines how much they're paying on their $500 million or $50 million refinery on a reduced rate after it's already been in use. And if you keep going down, I mean, it keeps getting worse. Like pollution control, anything that they consider pollution control, they actually reduce that 62% to 0. And business personal property, that includes any vehicles, machinery, vehicles, anything that's movable. It is not getting valued. They could have tens of millions of dollars worth of equipment, and it's not going to be included in their property tax evaluation. And a really good example of like what this means like to the city budget and to us is at this past input session, Maggie Peacock asked, what if we took away these IDAs and used all the additional funding we'd get to fund streets, to fund things? And Peter Zanoni said, well, we raised industry. And at the budget input sessions and part of this budget input season, the city's been saying we've raised IDAs and we're actually making around 5 million more. And that's because they raised on this third line 74% to 62%. And he's saying, well, if we put that up to 100%, we would have to, it would be a net loss because we'd have to provide street maintenance and police and fire to these industries. He completely didn't mention that it's 0% for the first 4 years, and the city didn't change that at all. They went down on the pollution control, and personal property is still 0%. So whenever you're in budget season and you're talking about how the city could fund other things, there's literally hundreds of millions of dollars that is getting passed by because of these IDA agreements. And there's also, even if we did annex them, there's terms of how the industry could still squirm out of these. And these are 15-year agreements that they've got these beneficial tax rules. And I mean, for an average resident, you get your property tax bill every year. And I mean, most people's goes up every year. Because if you improve anything, you add on to your house or anything, they're going to add that to your valuation and you're going to pay more property tax. Any questions that y'all want to ask to kind of clarify anything? Does that kind of make sense, like straight from this sheet to how they pay less, their assets are valued less and they pay less property tax?
It does. Can you guys hear me better now?
We can hear you. It's a little muffled, but we can hear you.
So I don't know why it's so muffled, but one of the things I'm thinking about as you're describing this is that if you watch media coverage of like taxes in Corpus Christi, a couple of days ago, for instance, they talked about reintroducing the tax to pay for street fees and things like that, right? Oftentimes you hear municipalities not having enough money, they complain about things like homestead exemptions and things like that. Basically, the onus for paying taxes is always framed as something that the citizens have to deal with, not corporations that are in these communities, taking advantage of the resources and things like that. Can you talk a little further about that, just that thinking and just how capitalism works at that level?
Yeah, and I'm thinking of the way the news portrayed this past September when they extended these agreements. The news was saying, oh, the city's increasing $20 million of revenue over 15 years. And it was because they were adding on, because they raised this one on the third line to 74% for 62%, that raised about 5 million of revenue. So they took that 5 million and expanded it over the 15-year agreement and was like, oh, we're making this amount. That's the amount that they reported on the news. Is like, the city added this amount of revenue, when they're completely ignoring that they didn't touch the 0% and they reduced the pollution control to 0. So they probably may not even be bringing that much more. So yeah, exactly. Like this is right here of a way to generate more revenue. Property tax is supposed to go to services that the city's funding. And I don't know if that kind of answered it, but it was really interesting how the news was reporting it this last September, like completely missing the point. The city wasn't even showing like projections. What would our revenue be if we change these percentages? Like, what would that even look like? Yeah. You can go to the next slide. So this plays into the desal talk and funding the desal plant, because at the city council meeting on the 29th, I believe maybe it was one before it, but the clip is in that first screenshot in the top right. The city said, we're going to be getting an additional 50 million in IDAs in 2031, because 3 companies have deferred all their payments for the first 15 years of their IDA. They're not going to pay anything, and in 2031 we'll start receiving that money. So that means that for 2015 to 2031, the city was receiving no revenue from the 3 companies were Cheniere, Gulf Coast Growth Ventures, and formerly known as Volestapine. And like this means, like the city was straight up saying, we're not all these companies have deferred out their taxes and they won't be paying them until 2031. So we're receiving 0 up until 2031. And when they said this amount 50 million, it made me think, like, what are we receiving now? And those are the numbers on the top of the screen here. In 2023, 24, the city received 20.5 million in IDA revenue. 24, 25, it was 24. 25, 26, it was 32. So because it is slowly going up, but 50 million is more than all those numbers. So that I did a public information request to kind of get more breakdowns, because that's what the city told me I'd have to do to kind of see what the actual breakdown of companies are. But so yeah, they also said that 50 million wouldn't even be 50 million right off the bat. It would be till 2035. It's going to slowly ramp up. So these are the same companies that are using all our water, that put us in the situation of needing the desal funding, are the ones getting like these abatements every year until 15 years after they started doing they had the agreement. And Cheniere, Gulf Coast Growth Venture, Cheniere especially, TCEQ violations. They've had a lot of environmental violating their permit, their air pollution limits. And you also see this picture is of Gulf Coast Growth Ventures in Portland. They're another one that you'll just see flaring at night. The whole sky will be orange, just like visual evidence of like what's going on. So yeah, I mean, that kind of how the city's trying to say, we've got this future revenue that we can apply to kind of quell people's concerns about water rates, but these are the same companies that put us in this situation, if that makes sense. Any questions, or we can go to the next one?
It makes sense to me.
Yeah. And this last picture is Portland again, the flaring that these same companies are doing at night. So not only, that's what I was just saying, they get these IDA agreements, they use a large majority of our water, they pollute our air and water, and then they also wield political influence to impact the decisions made on the city council. At this past council meeting, there was all the discourse about the Chamber of Commerce, because of what they were promoting. They were sending out messages for their members to tell city council members to support moving forward on the desal spending. And they were doing that in part with a political action group, My Town, Our Future, which was funded by Gulf Coast Growth Ventures, the same company getting these tax abatements and uses one of the highest majority water users in the city. So the residents faced increased rates, and while the city seeks solutions to increase the water supply, the rates go up. And the only reason the city's looking at these desalination plants that are going to produce millions of gallons of water a day is because of these industrial heavy usage, if that makes sense. And then something I found out from the city is, just like residents, you can appeal your property tax to the county. Industries, despite their IDA agreements, they can still appeal their valuations. You would think, well, you're already getting these beneficial industrial agreements, maybe they can't appeal the rates. But no, the city will sometimes get less revenue than expected, because the industries will appeal the valuations on their assets. So yeah, this past September, the council just approved new 15-year agreements, and like I said, it's more than just the financial cost. It's human health, environmental, social, and that these same companies can influence the council. So that's all the slides I got, I think.
Cool. Yeah, I kind of wanted to talk more about the valuation appeals, or the valuation lawsuits. I know, like, school districts that benefit from the property taxes that they should be paying, are actually having to pay back taxes. Is that correct?
What do you mean pay back taxes?
Um,
Like back to the industries, you mean?
yeah. So I have so in terms of, yeah, if you can maybe just help explain and how it relates to IDAs. So
Okay.
yeah, like you mentioned, there are these like lawsuits that are filed, and they have to do with the valuations. And I remember years ago there were layoffs and just huge problems at the county level as well as at school districts because they had to pay this money back.
Yeah.
They weren't able to recoup it in the first place. So I thought that was very confusing. I don't know if you
Yeah.
have.
Maybe to explain it would be like the county saying this your refinery is worth $50 million. So the tax rate is gonna if your refinery is valued at 50 million instead of 40 million, the tax is going to be more. So the contest would be, oh, I'm presenting all this documentation and pictures of reasons why my refineries, or this applies to like someone with their house. My refinery is only worth 40 million. Your valuation's wrong, so I should be paying less tax. So that's what happens with like residential. You can appeal to the county with evidence that like why your valuation is too high and why you should pay less. So that results in less revenue, money, of course, for the city. And I mean, with residents, it's like it's your home, it's your personal dwelling. These are commercial, these are the industrial businesses that are making the billions of dollars that can afford to pay, and they're the ones polluting the air and water. They should be paying fairly because they're here. And I mean, if we have methods to raise the revenue on these, they're the ones that are making the significant amounts. If that makes sense. Does that make sense in the valuation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's been the most, like, what do you hear most about from council or anybody on the city level defending IDAs? What is their logic? It just sounds crazy to give them such huge breaks.
Yeah. So Zanoni was saying that like it would be a net loss because if we took away the industrial district agreements and taxed them without these lower rates, the city would have to provide pave the streets, provide police and fire response. If they were annexed as part of the city, that's the excuse he gave me at this last community input session. And they're saying, even though we would make more money, it would be a net loss because of what we'd have to spend. And he was framing that just because of that 62 to 75% on improved property. It's not the full picture of how things are valued. So that their reasons aren't true. Like we're already bearing the brunt of them using all our water resources. That impacts all this discussion with the city of looking for water solutions because of their water usage. So they do impact the city even if they're not even though they're not annexed. So, and I'm sure there's been situations that are emergency. If there was an emergency, the city would still provide fire. If it was an actual serious emergency, the city police and fire would still be involved. So, I mean, that's straight from Peter Zanoni, the excuse he gave me about why. And they'll frame it as it's these industry ways, even though they're not a part of State Limits, it's their way of contributing to the city. But I mean, they're just trying to confuse you really with that wordage.
I mean, I've seen CCFD trucks out at like responding, right? Which is crazy. I mean, they should not rely on us as much, but they do.
Yeah, and if they're part of the city and stuff, I mean, yeah.
We have a comment online from Autumn who says, so if there was a fire accident or fire department would not go along, I doubt it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot missing from the picture when the city talks about IDAs. So thanks, Mark, for shedding some light on some gaps.
Yeah, and it'll be great. I mean, maybe if they respond to the info request, or we can find out, like, we have 70 to 80 current IDAs. How does that look with us getting 20 to 30 and then 50 million apparently coming from only 3? I mean, that would give a good picture of what things look like. So, yeah, we'll see. There's so many things like besides the IDAs to wrap your head around. Like, it's just another thing. It's just so much.
Yeah.
So part of the philosophy of Chisme is empowering just normal people, right, in the city to understand and wrap their brains around these. Like anyone can learn how to do this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would you recommend to people who wanted to begin to learn more about IDAs and how these operate? Like, what would you tell folks who wanted to really learn, about these agreements?
Yeah, I mean, watching the council meetings is like straight to the source. This is where they get the presentations, where they have the discussion on it, and I mean, part of that is also public comment. You hear resident input, but I mean, there's organizations here in Corpus for the greater good. DSA, that's the one I mainly organize with. Chisme. I mean, there's a lot of people that have been doing stuff like this in these organizations. So there's already people that have sat through lots of council meetings and have already intaken a lot of that information. So, I mean, getting involved with these organizations, being in the same room as other people that have been had experience talking and hearing how the city talks about this stuff is, I mean, a way to just not do it all on your own. So yeah, council meetings plus being involved with organizations like that. Those were like the same organizations involved in person, but also online. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on Facebook and social media all the time about discussion about this stuff. So, yeah, I would just say not be scared to post like online about it, see what other people think, and just talk to other people, find out more. Because I mean, this is something that I feel like 3 News or 6 News should be like talking all about this, but I mean, it doesn't happen. So yeah.
Yeah, that was my next question. I guess it could be our closing. So the city approved, like you said earlier, these agreements. They actually extended it from 10 years that they've historically been approving them for to 15 years, which was a big blow to kind of what we're trying to do in our movement. So what exactly is available to us at this point? With IDAs or trying to recoup some of that money that we're going to be losing for so long?
Well, I would say it's a new council that was last September. So there's different people on council that, I mean, they weren't the ones that decided that. But I mean, if you're not getting a good deal on the IDAs, maybe you have to raise your water rates for those users, even though you're already raising them. Maybe they get raised more because you take into context these industrial district agreements. And I mean, the clear picture of who's using the water, who's putting this in the situation. That's what I mean. Everyone that's been gone up to speak about Desal is bringing up. That's the whole point of what we're bringing up. You have to look at the big picture of what's going on here and not just in the vacuum of we need water.
So recoup it somewhere else for sure.
Yeah.
There are ways. Hell yeah. Cool. Any parting thoughts, Mark or Matt?
I mean, there's going to be the council meetings 6 days from now, the 19th, and then of course the 26th. 2 very big dates for the Inner Harbor desal. If it's going to be a very big opportunity to stop progress on it, they're going to be deciding whether to move forward with that 50 million to continue on with the design or to not move forward. And then budget input sessions. There's one in District 5 tomorrow, and there's like 6 more throughout the month. So lots of opportunities to talk to people, talk directly straight to city officials, the council members, and learn and also say how you feel. Put the pressure on to your council reps, because I mean, the reason I believe that they postponed 30 days is because of all the pressure and concerns being constantly raised by people. If no one was going and talking about it, I mean, maybe they would just be moving forward with this. Some of the council members wouldn't be so concerned about it. So yeah, just keep on, stay informed about it.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I do apologize to everyone listening tonight for the quality of my audio. I just want to thank Mark for spending half an hour with us and sharing his wisdom on this issue. As always, I do want to remind everyone at home to subscribe to Chisme Collective, to our newsletters. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook. Sometime, hopefully, tonight or tomorrow, in the next couple of days, after Beats takes a look at it as an editor, we're going to publish a short explainer on some of these alternatives to the desalination plants that were presented at City Council on July 29th. But that's all I've got. I'll hand it back to you, Beats.
Yeah, man. Subscribe. We'll have that explainer up that's been ever evolving. I think so there's been a lot playing out, but yeah, now some of these options might be eligible for funding. So it's a good time to put something out. Keep an eye out for that, and try to make it out to council on the 26th. It's going to be huge. So hopefully folks will be able to make it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, yeah. Thanks again, y'all.
Thanks for having me.
For sure.
Yeah, anytime. See y'all.